If not us, then who? If not now, then when? I think given the fact that we've already lost something like 85% of our natural areas in our state, we can't really afford to wait any longer.
Acres Land Trust finds significant land and preserves it forever. And what we mean by that is we look for land that's either unique, has had a long social history, or unique natural features on it. We acquire that land and then we guarantee never to sell it. That's the beautiful thing, is once Acres' name is on the deed, it'll always be on the deed.
When we drove up the lane today, this is the first I had been here for several years, and nothing has changed. Everything looks the same, and it was just, it does. It gives you a sense of peace that you know it's always going to be here, and other people will be able to come and learn from it and visit.
Acres forms relationships, and when we're talking to a landowner, they've got this history with their property. Their family has grown up here. They've raised children here. They farmed the land. They've interacted with the land. There's this built-in love of the land. And then they have this hard choice to make. Who is going to be the next caretaker of this land? And when Acres is that fit, it's a beautiful thing for the giver, because they know that the way they have managed their land, the love that they have for it, will continue, even beyond them. And for the organization, it's a beautiful thing too, because we become the steward of that land and we respect that land. And so it's this chain of custody, chain of support, and chain of, it's truly love of the land that continues when that relationship exists.
One of our favorite parts about exploring is the sense of adventure that you feel and the connection that you have to nature. Being in the woods, being in a field and exploring gives you a moment to kind of pause and reflect and look at things from a different perspective than you've looked at before. We love that as a family. We leave there energized and excited and asking when do we get to come back next. And that's something that I love to experience for myself, and I love for my kids to reflect that same excitement back.
You can talk about this thing called land preservation, and you can talk about acreage, and you can talk about nature preserves. But when you actually experience it, when you walk through the woods, you start to gain that personal relationship with the land. And that's what Acres does on a large scale.
You know, you look around and you see the trees and you see the brush and the fallen leaves. Once you really get in there and start looking, I mean, there's a whole nother world that we oftentimes ignore and is invisible. And we get out there and we notice it. There's just this amazing world waiting right there for you to discover.
When I was a kid, you could go down and it was always so peaceful. There's a couple of spots that I always enjoyed. One of them is right down by the creek. And you could go down there, you could sit, you could watch the dragonflies, and you knew every spring something was going to be there. It's a continuity, it's peaceful, and it's something you can always rely on.
As a nonprofit, Acres relies on people who just say, I want to be part of this. I want to be responsible for places being preserved. All of our money is private. We don't have federal grants. We don't have money coming in. This is just people who see what we do, appreciate what we do, and want to make sure that it continues.
At some point, it became very clear to us that we needed to put our money where our heart was. So we looked at it as a way to give back, as a way to support a cause that we really cared a lot about. It's just a clear example of how the power of us coming together, how we can each do small things with great love. It's just so satisfying to be a part of.
Wanting to preserve land isn't anything new for me. At the age of 5, we were living in Boise, Idaho. And my dad worked for the U.S. Forest Service, and so we were at the top of this mountain looking over what to a 5-year-old looked like the whole world. And my dad walked up and said, hey Jace, part of what I do is care for everything you see. And so I knew from that point forward that I love trees and that I really liked the idea that someone can manage land. And that's why I love ACRES, is because ACRES protects land beyond my tenure with the organization, beyond anything that I could accomplish. I know that the work that we do is always going to be there. For that next 5-year-old who comes across one of the preserves and says, wow, I can't believe this exists. And someone says, you can be part of this through ACRES.